Okay, so now to actually start doing the set. Okay, so right here, on number 4, they tell you that they give you 4 circles. One has a radius of 1, other one has a radius of 2, 3, and 4. Okay, say that each of them has a diameter drawn that cuts them into 2 equal sectors. Okay, so they're a diameter, we're cutting it in half. Okay, so we got like right there, right there, right there. They all have a bunch of diameter, or 1 diameter each, that cuts them in half. Okay, so they say find the arc length of 1/2 of each of these circles. Okay, so that's kind of like what we did before. Remember, it was like angle divided by 360 times the circumference. But keep in mind here, all of these are talking about half of a circle. Okay, so they're starting you out with like a basic thing, trying to get you to like see something and see a shortcut. Okay, so really all we're going to do is find the circumference of each circle and divide it by 2, cut it in half. Okay, so if the radius was 1, remember circumference is 2 times pi times r. 2 times 1 is 2 times pi would be 2 pi. Okay, so the circumference of this circle, the whole circle, would be 2 pi. But if we want half of it, we just cut the 2 pi in half. 2 pi divided by 2, the 2's cancel out, and that would just be pi. Okay, so the length of this sector, or basically halfway around this little circle, would be pi inches or centimeters, whatever that is. Okay, so circumference, cut it in half. Alright, now remember we said here, the second thing I said on the video about radians is that half of this, or 180 degrees, is pi radians. Okay, so all of these arcs, the arcs are all different lengths. You know, they're all bigger. The arcs are all bigger and smaller. But the angle inside, so like, let me go back here. The angles are all straight lines because they're all diameters. They're all half of a turn, half of a circle. So if you think about this, they're all going to be 180 here, which is pi radians. Again, so they're all going to be pi radians. And if you're like one of those people that like decimals instead of pies, which is fine, then you would say it's about 3.14 radians. Okay, so pi or 3.14, which again, just like we've been doing, if you want decimals, put decimals. If you're good with leaving the pies in, just leave the pies in. Alright, so now when you get to 5, they give you 3 circles. Same size angle has been used to create a sector for each circle. They want you to basically, you're finding the length, the arc length, radian measure, and the area of the sector. Okay, so first off, arc length, again, angle, we're looking for this, the distance from E to F, so it's going to be angle divided by 360. Remember, it's arc length, so we're multiplying it by the circumference formula. Okay, the angle is 45, the radius is 10. You just plug them in. Alright, same thing here. So when you get to the next one, you're still gonna start out with 45 over 360. But when you go to multiply it by the circumference, this r is 20. So this one's going to be times 40 pi over here, whereas this one would be times 20 pi, because it'd be 2 times 10, and then 2 times 20. Alright, so that's arc length. Now, area of the sector is the same thing. It's just that at the end here, instead of multiplying these by the circumference formula, you're going to multiply them both by the area formula, which instead of 2 pi r, it's going to be pi r squared. So still, and again, this is for area of the sector. angle divided by 360, so that stays the same. So these are all going to be 45 over 360, then times pi r squared instead of 2 pi r. So the pi r squared is all that changes here when you go to do the area. Now, the third thing, the last thing you have to do here is the radian measure. Okay, so again, just like we said to go from degrees to radians, okay, you multiply by pi over 180. So 45 degrees to radians, whoops. We want to multiply it by pi over 180. Okay, we should be able to cancel these and get our answer. Alright, and keep in mind, the angle is all the same for all these three problems. So you really only have to do this part once. That part's going to be the same for all three. Okay, and that, let's see what else is on here. Fill in that table with all the stuff we just talked about. 6, you're just writing ratios. Remember, when you see this right here, when you see this thing right here, that's talking about arc EF. Okay, so when I say arc EF, since there's no m in front, it's not saying the measure. This is the length. Okay, so we're talking about for all these you're using arc lengths. Okay, which you should have right there. So after you do number 5, number 6 and number 7, you're really just like using the table you already made to answer those. Okay, so do 4 and 5, then use the table number 5 to do 6 and 7.